before this recording. Maybe some oaks join later as the call goes on. But essentially, oaks, the reason I call this is because there's a fucking problem. Let's not lie about it. And let's be as blunt as we can. There is a fucking problem. And there's a problem. We should be part of the solution. But I don't see men actually doing their part, being part of the solution. So I called this basically to actually say, guys, for men in general, doesn't have to be us specifically, but what's the next step for men? What is the next step? And maybe for today we could answer that. We could answer that question. So I'll hand over to you. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. Put our hands up. Okay. For me, I think the issue that I find is that, and I think I asked it on one of the groups, is it's clearly not okay for us within our smaller WhatsApp groups, guys from the north, may you have it, that disagree with this behavior. It stretches far further than that. It needs to be a bigger conversation. So until you can get every single gent around you on board, it's not going to help us saying in our little micro environments, like, yeah, guys, I don't do it, because most of the friends I keep do not do this, but it's still happening.
Sure about that?
Are you sure about
that? Are you sure about that?
Okay.
Yeah, that's another very important thing, bro.
Let's start there firstly.
I would like
You'll
to
never know who does.
Let Ott speak. Let Ott speak.
Let me say, I would like to think that is not the case, but to your point, Trev and Alfie, is that it's actually such a far-reaching thing that how do we solve it? Because the conversation has to come with us, but if the solution is bigger than us as friends, how does it get bigger?
Okay. Firstly, let's identify what the problem is. You understand? Because I think everybody here is here for this meeting about what gender-based violence, but I don't really think that is entirely the problem. A guy hitting a woman, in isolation is not the problem. A guy murdering a woman in isolation is not the problem. You understand? We have a problem in this country, which is people don't want to call it what it is. The rape culture, number one, is a problem. Divorce culture is a problem. You understand? All of the things that we as men have come to accept as normal behavior from ourselves and from other men, you understand, in society are a problem. So I'm saying to you, we need to identify what is the issue before we can then say it is too big for us to handle, or it is too big for us as a to handle. So I would like to point out what the problem is. For me, it's simple, okay? Every single person that is in this conversation right now, okay? We were all raised by well-to-do parents, right? I imagine that most of us come from, who here comes from a single parent home? Sorry, you, Fonzo. Anyone else?
Me.
Matt, that's you.
Yeah, my camera's a bit fucked, so I can't.
Okay, no, okay.
And Pat.
And Pat, single parent home, right? Okay, but most of us come from homes where we had both our parents, and we got different or rather life advice from our parents, right? And most of it would have been around education and educating ourselves. Go to school, get good grades, go to varsity, get training so that you can start your career, isn't it? So if it takes 6 or 7, or rather call it 18 years of education, 12 years of scholastic education, and 6 or 7 odd years of professional education for you to just get a job, to prove that you've been tested in a certain field. What the hell then? Why on earth do us men imagine that we would not require any form of training in order to get into a relationship, something that is going to last far longer than, or something that should last far longer than your professional career? Why do we go into relationships without prior learning or prior education or prior training? What makes us think that we will succeed in building a relationship, a meaningful relationship with somebody for 60, 70 odd years?
Can I just jump in, please?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't think that in terms of like personal relationships, you need like official like training to tell you what is good and what isn't. Like I think it's a thing of, obviously you have your partner and you can agree on your parameters for like your specific relationship. But there's just like, I think there's general things, sorry, before you interject, there's general things that I think people should just understand. Like you shouldn't, like there's just things you do and you don't do in a relationship. Like you just don't cheat in a relationship. Like you don't need training to know that you don't cheat in a relationship. It's not something that you specifically need to go learn from elsewhere. So I think a lot of things that people do in the relationships, they learn from the environment. So they either grew up seeing their parents or their brothers or their sisters or their cousins or whatever it is, seeing that, okay, this guy and this girlfriend do things like this, and this person and that person do things like that.
Fonzo.
Okay. And like Trev said, what we need to call it what it is. And for me, growing up with a single mom, right? There are elements within a family household that take control based on the mentality of a man. For example, my father's Malawian, right? Mom's Zambian.
Yeah.
In Malawian culture, it's just basically a survival of the fittest type of mentality. You go to the village, a man beating up and handling a woman is taboo. It's a thing that happens from a day-to-day basis. But the mentality is, men, alcohol, and just plain old dominance. It's that Kamuzu Banda type of thinking. You understand what I'm saying? So it also starts from there. It also stems from there. It's not about relationships, if I may say. Respect.
Oh, okay. So if
it's about how you.
I don't wanna
hold on,
it's been taught. It's about how you've been taught within your households from a man. Mind you, I was not taught by my dad, but he was in the house. He spent more time drinking than he did spending time with me. But I could see where his head's at.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So I could have chosen one of two roads. I could have chosen to be like him. Could have chosen not to. It was very simple.
Yeah.
And I could see where the road took him. And the roadway it took him
was not a road for you.
And mind you, I don't have sisters, I don't have sisters. It's me and my brother. We're two brothers. We're two men. He'll tell you and attest the same thing. You understand? So that's the point I'm basically making. It stems from, it's inbred, it's taught. It starts from men don't cry. Once you starting from that men don't cry mentality, the humanity starts to leave the window. 100%. Once the humanity leaves the window, it results in other types of choices.
So
So is it like a?
Yeah.
Yes.
So is it like kind of what do you call it? Is it sort of this toxic masculinity thing that we're seeing now? Is it basically, because I think that encompasses what is happening currently, like things that oaks, like men don't cry and like men don't show their emotions. I think that is what toxic masculinity is.
It takes away your humanity. It takes away your humanity.
Yeah, it's like you can't be human. Like you have to be this machine that just functions to do specific things, and if you don't do these things, you're not a man, kind of.
100%.
Yes.
Now, is that not taught?
It is taught. It is taught.
So I think
I'd like to add to Trevor
wants to
there.
say something?
That is taught, but where is it taught?
Gasco, I think it's a community kind of thing. It's learned behavior. I mean, Trevor asked like who is from a single parent household, but the three of you guys were raised by women, you know, strong women at that, who taught you how to be gentlemen, who taught you how to be man and how to treat women. So some people could have learned it from having a father, how to mistreat a woman from having a father, you know, or how your father treats other women. So I think it's a learned behavior, and we also as guys learn bad behavior as we grow older in interacting with other guys. You know, where you're growing up through school, through varsity, and you see maybe not necessarily guys that you look up to, but people that you have something in common with, ill-treating somebody, and then he's like, you know, he has an excuse for it, but because you don't do that, you think, okay, cool, you might not have a conversation with him, or you do have a conversation with him, but we don't necessarily speak up to those things because, you know, it's a learned community kind of thing. Oh, we're gents, you know, it's okay for a guy to creep, it's okay for a guy to swear at his chick or whatever, you know, because he's not hitting her, but he's being verbally abusive towards her, you know. And then it's just this, it's okay because we were never taught by our mothers to treat our mothers like that. We were never taught by our mothers to treat our older sisters and our younger sisters like that. But why does it become okay to do it with your baby mama, your girlfriend, or whatever? Thanks.
Quentin case. So that's why I'm asking that who here has ever had a conversation with either their mom or their dad as to how they should behave in a relationship?
I didn't necessarily ask. It was put in me. You know?
I'm the same. I was never.
I didn't ask. She put it in me with the belt. That's how it is. You know.
You understand? No, you're right. And I'm just saying that. But who here has actually had that conversation with their parents and said, "Mama, I desire to have a relationship, lisamang, you understand? And I would like for that relationship to flourish. How do I behave in that situation?" Who's had that conversation?
I've had that conversation, but it's also one of those things, because it's your parent, you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of the details regarding this specific relationship that you are pursuing. So it ends up being a vague concept of, you know, with respect, raised well, give her space, give her agency, all of that kind of thing, where it's not really practically on the day-to-day, it's not really all that applicable. You know, it's sort of these overarching principles that you get from your parents, you know.
And sorry to interrupt you there, Chris, but do you not see a problem with imagine a society where we're just a small group, right? Imagine if this is on a scale of millions, okay, where we don't have the guidance that we need from our grandparents as to what successful relationships require. You understand? If we don't have their guidance and we don't have our parents' guidance, and we're just out here doing whatever we see on Pornhub, whatever we see on ETV, whatever we see on that is, you know, socially acceptable on TV, and we're learning, and our role models are divorcees, women beaters, and all of that.
Creepers.
You understand? Like, if our role models are those people, and we cannot have conversations with our own families, do you not see a problem with it?
There's a big problem.
Yeah. I think that's a very big problem in terms of we can't speak to our elders in terms of how we go about our relationships. Like, it's only you speak to your boys, you speak to your cousins, and that's it. Like, you can't speak to your parents about their difficulties in their marriage or some shit like that.
Fair.
So like you literally have to go and learn as you go into it.
But that's what I was saying to you about education in the beginning, to say that it is not right if we are spending 18 years of our lives learning how to become financially, not even, just learning how to become productive, if I can put it that way.
Yeah,
why
productive
are we
citizens,
not? Why are we not even spending a third of that time preparing ourselves for something that is going to be, or that should potentially be, for the balance of our adult lives? We are just literally learning as you go. We are not only fucking ourselves up emotionally and physically, we are literally destroying other people.
Yeah.
You know, we point fingers at women. You know, we call them emotionally damaged. We call them, we say that they have baggage and all of that shit from their past and whatnot. But who is to blame for all of that, guys?
The niggas. It's the dudes, bro.
It's the dudes.
Because we
wait, hold on. Can I interject, Trevor? Sorry.
I'll be with you. Just 10 seconds. I'm almost done. We go into these situations unprepared. However, if we had a little bit of a roadmap in Yana, you understand, and not just from seeing our parents. Me, I grew up my parents have been married for almost 40 years. You understand? I looked at that and I thought, this is the model relationship that I want to be. But I have never in my life had a conversation with my father regarding how, I should behave all of these things. I literally had to learn reading books, going on YouTube, and I'm still learning today. You understand? And I'm saying that we owe ourselves so much in terms of educating ourselves or preparing ourselves before we go into those situations, because we are fucking people up. We are fucking ourselves up, and we are fucking other people up, and we are saying no, they are the ones to blame.
Because we don't know.
Hey guys.
We don't know better.
Pimo, you wanted to say something, then Lou, then I'll just quickly. Are you good there, Pimo? Lou, are you good?
I just wanted to say, let's be wary of oversimplifying this thing. Let's not forget our own parents had a framework to work from. So to throw sand at them like that, it's not exactly black and white. And two, Trevor, you spoke about most guys here have been brought up by both parents, right? But how many of us are you sure didn't grow up in a household where the pops was putting hands on the mother? Guys wouldn't speak about that because it's embarrassing. So already that says a lot, that, guys cannot even say, hey, ish. The home front, it's not cool. Because most times when you get abusive timers, you get, the family likes to put up a front and act like everything is hunky-dory. Meanwhile, things are quite shitty at home. So, and then the third thing with the alcohol, I think this thing, only the booze, it's also, again, looking at it in a black and white fashion. Some of the strictest timers I know who don't drink, don't smoke, love to put hands on their women.
No,
it's just that the guys with the booze, they tend to go overboard because so they've got no inhibition.
I just wanted to add on what Luz was basically saying is, look, alcohol is a fraction of the problem. I mean, we had alcohol banned, where yes, people still had access to alcohol, but the consumption alcohol was reduced significantly. Yet GBV was still happening, right? So
and it was
the point of alcohol is a little bit, it's here and there.
Let me ask you a question.
Wait, just wait, Trey. And now to say that broken family structures are also leading to GBV. Yes, they do in some instances lead to GBV, right? But Lou pointed out again, you get family structures that are sound. Got 2 grandparents on each side, mother, father, been married whatever years, but father still lays hands on his wife, right? Your father might not even lay hands on his wife, but you might lay hands on your girlfriend, right? And then with regards to the point on education, it's all good and well telling someone, hey, this is what you must do. But what's stopping that person from not doing that? And then I'll lead it into Tups. You can chat to that Pimo, then Trev, just in that order. But yes,
I think the first thing is like, I appreciate that there are issues that we have to deal with fundamentally in the country, like in terms of whether it's sex education or gender education or like whatever term you want to call it, in terms of like how like men and women deal with each other on a personal level. But I think at a point in time, we have to, like, people have to be accountable for their actions. Like, you can't be a 23, 24, 25-year-old guy saying that you hit your girlfriend or your wife because you grew up knowing that. Because at a point in time, you have to know better. Like you're open to other avenues and other things, whether you go into varsity or when you start to work or whenever it is. But at a point in time, there has to be accountability for your own actions, where you yourself decide that I know this is how I grew up and this is what I've seen my parents do or my uncles do, or whatever it is. But if you're 25 and you're saying that you hit your girlfriend because your dad used to do it, you can't fall back on that. Like, at a point in time, it has to be personal accountability.
Okay,
there has to be personal accountability.
Pimo can jump in now. I hear you, Tubbs. Accountability, important.
Okay, so so it's pretty simple, guys. I mean, I know what we've all mentioned. The base of it all, like, you know, is that a lot of things that I've heard and a lot of scenarios that we've heard is that people will use many excuses. Alcohol, I was drunk, I was this, I was that. It all just generally boils down to, okay, how do you as a human handle your anger and your rage, right? Like, that's the general scenario of it all, right? Because you're not just going to beat someone while you're happy. You know what I'm saying? And you come back to the scenario of in a conversation, in an argument, in a relationship of any sort. It could be a relationship with a mate, with a guy. There's never any reason to lift up fists, 100%. We can all agree on that.
Yeah,
right? Doesn't matter how angry you get, doesn't matter how whatever you get. Like, and especially in a relationship, like and I'll almost refer to as the TV video / euphoric references to relationship. That is what gets a lot of people into trouble. Everyone believes that relationships are supposed to be this hunky-dory thing where there are no arguments, there are no, guys, 100% of the time, you and your partner are two totally different people. There are things that you believe in that she doesn't believe in, or that she believes in that you don't believe in, even if it's you are he and he's a he, or she and she, or asexual, pansexual, whatever. It's going to be very seldom that you're going to agree on every single thing, every single day, right? And if you want to go back to nurture and nature and nurture, the way you were nurtured as while growing up, as how you respond to conflict or to disagreement, is how you then end up living your life. If you have to raise your voice and get angry to win an argument, then you're probably going to be a person who uses a lot of rage and a lot of anger. But if you can understand that, okay, cool, we're not agreeing at this point, and are able to either get your point across, and if not get your point across, be like, you know what, this is where the situation that I have no control over anymore. A lot of times, and like, you know, when you look at these numbers and you look at the reasoning behind it, like there's absolutely zero valid reasoning. Like it can be educational, it can be whatever it is, wherever you look at it. Nurture and who you are as a person. No one is, you don't just be who wants to hit another person. Like you just walk around the street being like, yes, I'm trap alone. No, like, and generally, and I see it a lot, like, you know, especially when you go home and you go and all these guys are chilling there, and like it's almost like you say, it's a part of, like, I don't know, someone said it earlier, it's a part of like the dynamics, how guy will be like, wait, then you're like, why don't you just speak and understand what I'm talking to a guy before you start wanting to clap about? Like, I mean, the amount of times I've spoken to guys, and guys are like, Marino, I'm like, see, that is the first old mentality that I don't agree with. You know, and to answer your question about those things, I think as a society and as basically almost as, and I mean, when I say black society, I mean all peoples of color, like across the board, from Indian all the way to black people. We do not have like, it's only, let's say not all of us, most of us don't have that culture or that of, we can have certain, like, I mean, some of us are at some point where you do, but not all of us are at the freedom of, you can speak to your parents about everything, just because of how nurture was. Like the term that children are seen, not heard. Just take that term, you can translate it to whatever language you use at home, but that was always said to you, that children are seen, not heard. So now you translate that into your growing up, that becomes part of your nature, part of your, and by the time you get to 16, 17, 18, the conversations you're having with, whether it's your dad, whether it's your uncle, whether it's a senior elder of male kinds, are not like that. Cool, I'm done.
Trev, you had a point earlier.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say something to Taps there. I hear what you're saying, that at some point or another, all should become accountable for our behavior. But I just want to go back to what Patrick was saying about nature and nurture. You understand? That, mate, you can't take for granted the way that I was raised and the way that you were raised, the information that we were exposed to. Understand? It's not something that we should take for granted. A lot of people are ignorant, if I can put it that way. You understand? They are raised in the culture that they're exposed to, and the information that they're exposed to is very, you would look at it and be like, what the hell, you know? But that's how they grow up. So I'm saying, my point was that we should, you know, like the whole, it should be the way that a boy or child is raised, especially in you know, we should do away with a lot of you know, the whole, what Patrick was saying, you know, that children are seen and not heard. We should do away with that. That will go a long way in making, you know, kids feel like, you know, whatever problems they have, they can talk to their parents about. Because if you look at some of these events that have taken place in the past few days, you can't say to me that those were not premeditated type of situations. You know, like the guy who killed his 8-month pregnant girlfriend and hung her on a tree. You can't tell me that that oak was drunk.
Sorry, oops. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear what Trevor was saying.
Yeah, I'm also losing you.
I heard everything.
I heard everything perfectly also,
I
Trevor.
heard everything. I think it's just you, Tubbs. But yeah, I'll jump in there. Jump in there.
Okay. My first statement, I hope is not too controversial, but I think this is where kind of accountability sits with me, but I've got a larger point. Accountability sometimes, I think, with men goes away when it with the spouse, because sometimes they can coerce the spouse into believing, oh no, this was the last time, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do it, I was drunk, I was angry. And that behavior also needs to stop. I made a point the other day to say that Tsecho's uncle was a lawyer who defended the killer of Karabo. And now at the funeral of his niece says, I will now not do that anymore. But the issue that I had with that entire speech that he made at Tsecho Faza's funeral, he didn't even say, or even change his business model to say, I will become a place where women can come to me as an attorney of the law, and we can go and file police reports. My mom says to me that when she used to work at Power, they used to make sure women go and log a case, or even just go and log an incident report, because when it comes to things like restraining orders, when it comes to things like things going to trial, you need a track record, and if a lawyer can say, I'm going to help women go to the police station, it stops this thing of police officers dismissing women for just because, or whatever, or women feeling afraid that they don't have a place to go to. So maybe it could start with attorneys. It could start with the police officers. In terms of unlearning, to Tups's point, I also think that culture that we spoke about of children being heard, being seen, not heard, should also change. And I think this should be conversations we have with the Department of Basic Education and Culture and all those kind of things, to say, in schools, especially in boys' schools, especially when it comes to things like initiation and whatnot, you must, the idea of ndoda, or a man, needs to change now, and the role and what he must learn needs to change. It must start at a base level to say it is okay to feel certain emotions. It's okay to be upset, but you don't do it like this. And by teaching those kind of behaviors, number one, or teaching coping mechanisms, bringing mindfulness into schools, you can like harness and nurture rage, because yes, we have rugby and we have all those sports and people have all that built up testosterone, but if you don't get rid of that thing on the rugby field, what happens? You take it to your girlfriend, and these are the cultures or the behaviors that we need to be unlearning. And maybe it starts in the classroom, maybe it starts with a curriculum change and adding classes to say, when you become a teenager and adolescent, before you go out into the big bad world, let's harness some of your behaviors, or let's unlearn some of the things you might have learned at home, because you cannot leave school being more angry or not understanding women or your role in society or whatever. Or if your dad is a very negative influence on your growth as a man, maybe let's change it in the schooling environment. When you are exposed to more people and more thought and just different environments, or when you're exposed to females, because a lot of these guys come from different backgrounds, and you go to Wits and then you get a car and you get this and get that, and now a girl's in your class for the first time because you went to a boys' school all your life, and you were rejected in high school and whatnot. Now you want to be the big man with money and no one's reciprocating, or you've never heard a no before from a female, and now you like, why are you saying no to me? I'm the big cheese, So these are the things that we could possibly be doing or highlighting and say, the problem starts here, or the problem is here, let's try and unlearn it. Thank you.
Okay, Trev, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanna wrap up. Like, I'm just gonna say that it is so bad, guys, that even women, you understand, have a have, some women have a really messed up image of what a man is. I came across a lady once who told me, I like alphas. Understand? That's what she said to me. And I asked her, what is your definition of an alpha? She said strong, very masculine, and 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 like,
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that even some women have a messed up definition of what a man is, or and they gravitate to that violence and all of that stuff. But then it's all good. Yeah, Oaks, we're done. I'm done.
But it's
easy. Okay, go Fonzo.
Yeah.
It also goes back down to where women themselves. I mean, I spoke with a lady friend of mine today, and she said to me, "Where do we go wrong as women for you to behave like this?" I was like, no one should ever blame themselves for the behavior of another human being towards them. Should never be you. That starts from that individual themselves. As plainly as it sounds, or as simply as it sounds, it starts from that individual. A woman should never. She went today, she told me, she went to the garage. She went in and out within 5 seconds. She's never felt like that ever in her life. Guys, women are scared right now. They are piss scared right now. And it hits close to home because we know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's doing
No, I don't even think it's that far sometimes, bro. It's like right here.
No, we know someone, all of us.
We know somebody, guy. We all know somebody. We all know somebody. I even told you guys guys who were on the other Zoom chat on Saturday. I told you about that other story. I know somebody. It doesn't put me into shame. I have to call it out how it is. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just trying to say that, like, we tend to be selective as guys of what type of elements are causing this, but we have to look at the overall picture. Guys, catcalling is a problem. Guys act on the catcalling. You understand what I'm saying? That's a prime example I can give you. It must be the dumbest thing, but it actually makes sense. Catcalling, because one out of 10 guys, or 10 guys will catcall a chick on her way to a mall or on her way to the store. Out of those 10 guys that are catcalling, 5 will act on that shit. 5 or 3 or 2 or 1, doesn't matter. I don't know the stats. They'll act on that shit. They'll act on their catcalling. As to where does that start now? Now you're acting on your emotions. Now you're acting on all these type of things. Where does that come from psychologically? That's what women are asking. Where in our heads is this shit starting from? Where does it trigger us?
Is it okay?
Where can we stop it? They're even asking where can they stop it? What? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's hectic. That's hectic, though.
Look, I want to go back to this thing of it not being black and white again, and must also look at it as moving parts the whole time. So I want to paint. This is something I just thought about, right? Actually thought about quite a few times. So you grow up the way we grew up, right? Mom and dad. I'm gonna go with both parents scenario. Both your parents work. Your dad gets home, puts his feet up, they make coffee for him. Whether you're playing TV game, whatever the case might be, you're gonna change the station. There's no fight, nothing aggressive about it. It's just a known thing. Okay. Mom starts cooking, prepares the dishes. They ask you if your homework is done. You get your homework done. They bring the meal. Your dad gets his meal with on a tray. And if there's a little bit of Coke left, and the rest of you must drink Oros. Dad gets preference. Mom is cool with that. All of you know that. Sharp. Fast forward 23, 24 years later, you start dating Balesa. You come in, both of you from work. You say, babe, can you make me a cup of coffee? She says, hi, I'm also tired. Already your mind is fucked because that's your model, that's your framework that you've based relationships on. She comes back, supper time with 2-minute noodles, and she says, I don't feel like cooking. Do you want takeaways? And she sits down with noodles. And she grabs the remotes and puts on the Kardashians or these soapies. And you're thinking, the cheek, the nerve. And then one day you go out, you turn up, you come back home, and you wanna watch the La Liga game. And she's watching something. She didn't mind you went out with the boys. It's Barca versus Real Madrid. You left the cold 6-pack in the fridge. Baby, baby, this movie's almost done. But see, I changed it. You guys get into a big one. You're here. So you clap it because now you're thinking about all the other things. This woman is just uncouth. Then there's a second aspect to think about in the scheme of things. Whether we like it or not, as much as we grew up with black parents, when you grow up in the burbs, your family, one way or another, sort of puts it into your head that you're better than the others. So now you're dating Balisa from a Lokshin. When are you from the burbs? You grew up, you went to St. David's. Balisa went to Supatsela. So when she disrespects you, the nerve of this Supatsela former student to come at me like this, how dare she? I'm going to close it up. Just saying, food for thought.
No, I understand what you're saying completely, Lou. And it actually works in the other way also, bro. You can be, Balisa can come from where she comes from, and you live in the burbs, and she'll bring that mentality to you. You're like, well, I guess you behave like this kind of a way, bro. Which also shows like the brokenness of the system, bro. Even if you're acting right, bro, the another 5 niggas you just showed a dust, bro. And that's like, as Ort said, like, even though Ort says that we should teach this in schools and stuff, but I think it should be taught pretty much at every level of like development, pretty much. Like if your parents can be together, but then they're living their own lives, right? Sometimes. So you just like, the only role models I have on TV. And now you see James Bond here with 10 women slapping a few of them, but he's still the man, bruh. So the thing is like, and then now there's music videos on top of that. And then now when you don't feel comfortable, like you don't feel comfortable coming out about girls, but your older like siblings and cousins and uncles, they're always so keen to be like, yeah, do you have a girlfriend? And you're like, yeah. And then they give you the most ratchet advice, bro. There's nothing like, no, you must like, the thing is like, they always just like trying to like show you how to act cool and how to get more girlfriends instead of just like, bruh, just treat this person like a human being. And even if things don't work out, bruh, she's not ruined. Let me say that, like mentally ruined because of what she went through with you, bruh. So even if you don't like, even with the experience thing that Trevor said at the beginning, I mean, well, the learned behavior, it's like with a relationship, it's like an evolution of learning how to treat other people like right. Because a relationship is like, I think like is very much experience based. You need to be in a relationship. You can hear about it, but you need to be in it, kind of a thing. But a real sorry, Fonzo, but like this last one, just to have a great like relationship, even when you don't have like experience in relationships, right? If you have a great foundation of how to treat other people, right, then you're already starting on a much better foot than most people if you get into a relationship where you just know to treat your fellow man, never mind just fellow woman, right? Just everyone as equal. So yeah, it's just every aspect needs to be working for the cause, not just like, you can't just think of your parents as my only good source of information. It needs to be like from everywhere, which is going to be difficult to do because you know that other image of being the cool guy sells, bro.
However, I've just got a question based on what you've just said now, and anyone can feel free to answer, is what about the no means no type of mentality? That's another thing to look into, because there's a lot of guys out there. We've seen it. We've gone to a spots, Chillers, a Billy's, or wherever you go. We've been. You see that one individual, he's hollering at a shorty. He's doing his thing. Shorty's like, no. He's incessant that he's, we brush it off.
Facts.
I've seen that.
Facts.
I mean, I've seen that shit. I brush it off. So you kind of like say like, oh shit, he's getting flack from her. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, in her mind, she's like, I just gotta get this guy off my back because he could do worse. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Where that's another thing to look into and take into perspective, is that no means no. Where have everyone else here, when a shorty says, hey, can I holler at you? Can I get your number? No. Go and walk, take the other direction. Some guys persistence.
Yeah.
So where does that stem from? Where does it come from? Is that the right question I'm asking? Is it?
Yes, it is, Fanzo. And is that
Yeah,
thing of
yeah, it is.
niggas,
It is a very good question. Yeah.
because niggas say, nah, bruh, she's just fronting.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what she's missing out for, kind of.
Yeah, I think.
bullshit.
Sorry, Trev. I just want to make a very quick point. I think that no means no thing also stems from, like, I wasted my time and all the signals and whatnot. I think what guys need to also realize that it's okay to just give, like, I want to kiss you but nothing more, or I can give you my number, nothing more, because I think now people automatically feel that because we flirted tonight and I gave you a kiss at the bar, it means we have to have sex. Or we go take an Uber and my Uber drops you off or whatever, that kind of stuff. Or, you know, I think people just, there's a mentality of, well, every night must lead to sex and all of this must lead to sex. Even if there's no, like, even if there's a no, it must like, but why are you saying no? Because you were saying yes to other stuff earlier. But now why are you saying no to this? And how dare you say no to this? Or, but I bought you booze the whole night. Or like you and your friends, or that kind of nonsense. No. You know, like, yeah.
I think it's also okay to get bad sometimes. Like, it's also okay to get bad.
Yeah,
no, it's fine.
Like sometimes
it's
just
fine.
Yeah, it's okay to get bad, bro.
But when you come,
it's a numbers game.
Laugh at you, bro. That's what most guys are scared of when they come back to their mate. It's fine if the girl says no, but like the thing that scares them more than the bad is telling your mates that you got bad. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like it's always shit. What are the boys gonna say?
I'd just like to say something. We have brought a lot of, like, right now this chat that we're having now about it's okay to get back and all of this stuff, but this shit happens on the regular. Oaks get bat and they walk away. So, and it's I can guarantee it's a lot of Oaks that walk away once they get bat. I lost. It's a lach. You lach with the boys. It's fucking over, right? But the problem is at that moment when she says no and you get bat. What's that? That moment that makes you say, okay, sweet, fuck that. I'm going to sleep with her tonight. If you pull her, you don't have to kiss her, right? But what's that moment that says, no, I'm going to have sex with her tonight? Is it a broken family structure? Is it, oh, fuck, the music videos you see on TV? It's not any of that shit. Oh, you're all fucking nuts. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah, you're fucking nuts.
No, but it has, I think that there's something fundamentally wrong with men, right? And I do think in a lot of situations, right, me included, we fucking scapegoat on a lot of bullshit. When at the end of the day, Oaks, we're fucking nutters, right? We are fucking nutters. We don't deserve the fucking lives that we have right now in society, the privileges that we have, the women that we have access to. We don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. And I think we need to do what needs to happen now, because that was the purpose of this call. What happens next? We found so many root causes and said, no, it's this, it's that, it's that, it's that. Folks, we have to do introspection. We really have to do introspection as a society. And it's no good at while having this call now, right? Although this call is good, it's not good while having this call now, because one, there's people that aren't going to see it, right? And two, we could have this call. This call could be broadcast on every single TV show, every single TV channel in South Africa right now. Right? And it's broadcast in South Africa. Right? And someone's actually going to be like, you know what? Fuck that up. Fuck what Mpeezy's saying. Why? Is it the family structure again? Is it the music videos? Is it pornography? Is it male dominance? What?
I don't know if you saw the question that I posed earlier. I think let's start there with the couple of questions I posed earlier. I can't pull them up now because I unfortunately left the chat, but they're there somewhere in the chat if you look up.
Sorry. I've been working as well at the same time. Sorry, Tubbs.
No, just check there, and then let's just discuss that first.
The abusive mode, that question. Unlearning abusive behavior.
I only posed one question, so
the abusive.
Okay. So at what point do we unlearn abusive behavior?
Busy. I don't think people are disputing men are trash here. That's why we all joined the chat. I think the reason why you sometimes need to allow people to just speak is because it's a human way of trying to figure out what's what. So
I apologize if I came off that way.
No. Yeah. We know we're in for an earnest chat, so there's no apologies, lah.
But yeah, the main crux of what I wanted to say is, I even saw Fonzo nodding his head when I said, it's that moment when she says no, right? What is the cause of that fucking moment for you to actually say, fuck this? And I'm saying that we've pointed at a lot of things, but in many situations, a lot of things don't lead to that moment. A lot of things don't lead to that moment. The broken family structure. Just hold on, Trevor. The broken family structure. We've just said that, look, there's guys that have grown up in single households that moment they do the right thing, right? Then there's guys that grow up in aggressive households, right? I won't lie. The way I grew up, if you do not shout, you don't get your point across. If you do not add a little bit of aggression, you will never get your point across. That's the way I grew up, and that's the way I learned how to do things. Yes, I fucking unlearned that because that's toxic. That's toxic. But at that moment, right, no means no for me, right? We've got guys from the Kasi as well, who at that moment, no means no for them. So I've tried to figure out at this moment, what is the problem?
Nature and nature. It's what you were taught growing up with. It's what you learned. It's you're an accountant, right?
Yes.
How many years did you spend doing that? Okay.
Many years. Many years.
You can literally do that without referring to a textbook, isn't it?
100%.
Exactly. You learned how to speak English from the time you were what?
I only know how to speak English, but
you understand. And you'll never you know the definition of words without even referring to a dictionary. You understand?
100%.
There are people, and that's what I'm saying to you, Oaks, that you Oaks takes this shit for granted. There are people that don't know what no means no. You understand? It just means it's just another thing. You understand? They need to go with it. And you can look at it and be like, that's a nutcase. To him, he was just going with the moment. Yeah, he didn't know. He's never been taught. He's never been put in a situation where somebody sat him down and said, "Hey, but no means no." We're not even talking about people that are far from us. We saw there were cases, Abu Dalez, Shili Mings, all of those people that were accused of spiking girls' drinks. People that we know. You understand? At what point do you look
laryngitis?
You understand?
And these people at our back door, guys. They're in our back door. We know them. We know them.
You understand? And at what point you can look at, we all went to schools with him. You know, they speak good English like we do, and all of they went to varsity with us. But you don't know what the guy was being taught at home. His parents were too busy. They're making money and whatnot. That's what I'm saying to you, that we can take for granted that we grew up in nice houses and all of that stuff. But the upbringing, what we're taught, what the values that our parents instilled in us, the values that society instilled in us. Some people grew up with MTV. That's their culture. That's the culture that they were exposed to. Not the culture of their parents, not the culture of whoever, whatever good role models are out there. They grew up, MTV was what taught them, was morally acceptable.
I think
Right,
yeah.
guys.
No, sorry, last go on.
Just Freeze has had his hand up for a while. Freeze, if you can jump in. And then we'll jump to you, Lwazi. And then Ots.
No, that's all good. I think I'm covered. I just wanted to say that we're not actually disputing that men are trash, and that we actually need to also start addressing Sinji's point, because at the end of the day, we do have to have a hard look at ourselves and say, we actually know some people that have had questionable interactions with women. So now it's, do you approach it? How do you approach it? And what is your responsibility as that person being like, I don't want to lose this mate or whatever, but that behavior is not okay. So I think Sinji's point is very important, so that we don't ignore it the whole time.
Lwazi, did you want to answer that or?
Yeah, Lwazi,
no, like, no, I was just thinking, like, because the thing is, like, it seems like a taboo kind of like subject, and it literally needs to be the same way I get these messages every morning from the government telling me about COVID and have to cover up shit. We need to remind people that often about how important it is to like behave in a certain way, bro. Because the thing is like, something that's happening so often is getting so little notoriety. And a big thing is that like, and another huge thing that people have is that like, well, I'm not like this. And the thing is, it starts ending up becoming preachy, and you're like, oh, I don't want to hear about this shit anymore. And you literally have to think about the other people who this shit actually needs to go to, kind of a thing. Just be like, you see, like the same way, okay, this is going to sound a little bit messed up, but like the same way I drive and then I see a billboard, now they're selling tampons, bruh. I don't look at it and go gross. I'm like, oh, guess that's for women. Let me just carry on driving, bruh. It needs to be like that. It needs to be like, it's fucked up, but this thing can actually change someone's mind or save someone's life, even, bruh. So it just needs to be...
to stigmatize it, Lars.
Yeah, it's stigmatized even to talk about. You know, people who are like, ugh, I'm so sick of hearing about this woman abuse and stuff and children abuse. And you're just like, yeah, and then in our own like lives, maybe we can be like, oh, in my own like little bubble that I live in, none of this is an issue, so it can't be that bad around the world because I think I'm an average Joe, when actually, bruh, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
like, even the thing is, like, even like there's the abuse factor, and then even those people who abuse women, you'll find they were abused as kids, bruh. So like it's just a very vicious circle, because like
rude.
I think
like the beating of women, and just just a quick one, and just straight up like just abuse of people you feel like maybe physically weaker than you. Like it needs to just like, I don't know how it comes down to that, because the only reason they like, I know it's a power thing sometimes, but sometimes it's just a psycho thing that solves nothing. So I don't know.
I think it's like, I think our job practically at a more practical level is like we can try and find reasons for behaviors looking from the ground roots up, and at every level there must be sort of a male role model, or even just a role model, you know. But I think as the gents now on this call now, what can we do on our side to sort of alleviate what is essentially happening? So it's sort of cleaning up our own house, so to speak, and then taking it from there. You know, I think practical things would be to, of course, I mean, we can donate to a GBV shelter. for instance, and obviously no one needs to know that. I think it would be also good to sort of actually, we know what kind of South African musicians we stand, and I think we can also just sort of maybe just limit our own support of these certain things, you know, and then also just having the conversations with your mates that we're all flawed. We've all done something that is questionable. I mean, it's easy for us to frame things in such a way that it's like, no, I am not guilty of this, and therefore it doesn't affect me. Therefore, I'm tired of these posts because it wasn't me. But in our own ways, we have also fallen short of a standard. I don't know when and I don't know how, but there has been an instance where we could have done better towards women, you know? So I think with us, it starts with literally clearing out our own house. I think it's going to be very difficult to find a cause. You know, some people are dicks, some people are psychopaths, some people are culturally grown up that way. Some women, in fact, say my man must be this way. You know, so the cause issue is not the one that we're going to solve. You know, I think the one that we can solve is the toleration of these things within our midst.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Peasy, I think just before you jump, I just want to say quickly on what Freezer say. I think it's very important we remember there's also a human element to this thing. If you check all psychology books, yes, when it comes to personality types, only 10% of human beings will be completely and totally honest all the time. The other 10% will always lie and do some shady shit. That is why you get a guy who's from a perfectly good family and you find all 4 siblings are just as good, but except for that one guy who does the most fucked up shit. Okay, so 10% is dodgy, 10% is good, but 80% is good but dubious. So it depends on how the wind is swinging, and that's how they'll behave. It's one of those, if there's a chance of not being seen, they'll do it, but otherwise, generally, they won't do it. And then another thing I wanted to suggest, sort of last thing, PC, maybe it'd be a good idea to just also catch everybody's thoughts, even if it's just a 2-minute thing, just because others haven't said anything.
Yeah,
that's what I do
want to just wrap up.
I just wanted to go Arts Pimo, and then I think we could just go around the table with everyone saying their thoughts and their last statements. But yeah, let's go for it.
So I just want to like quickly actually get into Tups's point, and I when I first saw it, and I think that's when I started, you know, how do we begin to unlearn this behavior? I remember, I think it was last year, I was listening to 702, and then there was an interview with one of these, you know, they always bring these cultural guys to say, you know, isn't it toxic masculinity within the African cultures? And even he then defended it to say, no, but like a man is not taught this, a man is not taught that. But we also know some of those toxic things that men are taught. So we then need to call out these institutions to say, stop saying that it's not. There is a root cause, so let's get at it. Because there's an issue there. So let's get to conversating about the issue. Let's not keep saying, no, guys, men are not taught this, because we know that they are. You know, let's make these things like part of, like I said, school curriculums, so that schools are talking about this, because you can best believe at St. David's and Michael House, when you have social sciences, guidance, people are bringing out these different topics, because you've got people from all walks of life in your fancy schools, but in your more rural schools, or your more, you know, your single medium schools, they're not having those kind of conversations, because you can be guaranteed that at Afis, or maybe Afis is a bad example, but at an Afrikaans school in Bloemfontein, they're not talking about the same things that St. David's is talking about, and that St. Stephen's is talking about, or Supatsela High. They're very different conversations that are being had, but we need to then try and have an influence on those conversations as a community. This is what we should be talking about, number one. And to Tups's second point, in terms of when do you cut a person off, I think it's no longer about cutting off, because I can guarantee you that guy that killed Karabo and the guy that killed Sekhofaso might not have had any friends at the time. They might have all just said, you know what, dude, I'm removing you from my Facebook. But at the end of the day, we need to be calling these things out. I heard a father who was on the radio one time and he said, you know, I kept telling my daughter to go back and fix stuff with her boyfriend. And I wish I hadn't because now I'm burying her. And those are the issues. We actually need to be calling these people out to make sure they don't get away with it the second time. Because more often than not, they've been forgiven and it's like, well, cool, I won't do it again, I won't do it again. Hence my point about the laying charges and having places where people can go and feel safe and know that they're being heard. So it's about institutions allowing people to like have an avenue to go and speak about these things. But it's about calling the guys out as us as guys, not just cutting someone off, because that person can be cut off and still do it. But if you call him out, best believe he's going to be very afraid to do that same behavior to either the same person or somebody different. I thank you.
Okay. Bimo, you raised your hand, I think, when Fries was speaking.
Yeah, I did, man. Look, I think there's some valid points made across the board. And I think, you know, going back to what Matt, G, and Ross were talking about how it's got to be discussed in schools or discussed in leadership, from the leadership basis of schools to, you know, it becomes such a hectic topic that, you know, you're not going to figure it out by putting a roof on the house. You need to figure it out by what is in the foundation, how you laid the foundations, and you almost have to take apart a lot of learned behavior and a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, like, is it to Odds and Trevor's and pretty much most other guys who have spoken across the board, the behavior that people can justify, because a lot of times guys have found a reason to justify it in their head, right? I mean, violence towards children, violence towards women, guys have found a way to justify it in their head. Like, it's that justification and that process of justification that you have to get at, whether it's, like Ross said, I mean, we all get that COVID SMS every single day, and I tell you what, even if you don't read it, like after the 10,000th COVID SMS, you kind of have a general understanding of what it says because your brain has seen it so many times. And your brain is a fucking funny thing. You've seen it so many times, you've heard it so many times. Every radio station you listen to, whether it's a music radio, every TV channel you listen to, even if you think to yourself, no, I don't watch mainstream media or whatever, wherever you click on the web, there is always going to be a hint about COVID and about so-and-so, about so-and-so. So to me, my first question, and if there's any solution, we have a minister in the presidency for women and children, right? Your ministry, the singular most important job is this. So does that ministry take conversation? Do they have these conversations? Or is it the fact that, okay, cool, when it comes to 16 days against violence on women and children in December, that's the only time we'll ever hear from you in the whole year? Is that it? Because then you're making matters that, okay, cool, like it should happen, then all of us should make it a thing. Whereas you say to yourself, you know what, the media is not doing it, no one's doing it. Once every week, I'm going to retweet a post about life against violence or against GBV, basically. And that's like about, and I'm summing up here, by the way, you don't have to come to me or see me. Paul, sorry, you look the same. Yeah, fine. You're also the same on the screen. You have to make a point of putting it out there. Like, amongst all of us here, you can probably reach like what? Close to 8,000, 9,000 people, right? And even if they don't look at your posts every day, they don't see your posts every day. But the more repetitive this thing is, the more repetitive it becomes. And, you know, the risk, you run the risk of people saying, oh, no, but you're also jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, no, but you're also doing this, right? But you've got to create the movement, there has to be a start. And the problem is there's so much fear of the start that everyone's like, oh, someone else must do it. Someone else must do it. Someone else must do it. Yeah, no, it's again, give me the idea, then I'll jump on. And even when you jump on, it's like, you jump on when this thing is waning out of control, waning down because no one actually supported it from the start.
Thank you, Pimo. Okay, I'll just go across. All my things. Hey Joe. So full Bettis, any closing comments? Anything you'd like to round up?
Okay, so for me, I think in closing, I'll kind of piggyback off what Dylan said. In terms of, we have to think about practically how each one of us can kind of help solve this issue that we're here to discuss. And I think each and every one of us here, the most practical way, I think it goes down to basically not tolerating this behavior in whatever social setting we find ourselves in. So, for example, in that no means no situation, I think it's down to each and every one of us not to turn a blind eye. And I can speak for myself in saying that I personally don't like conflict. And obviously, if you see whether it's a mate or someone doing something that's not right, you're not going to exactly want to be involved in that conflict. But I think it's up to us to kind of stand up in that situation and kind of do something. Because if each and every one of us turn a blind eye every time this happens, those people that we cannot fundamentally change their way of thinking as to why they keep doing this, they'll just say, we can get away with this. And I think if each and every one of us can kind of do that, it's a small thing, but I think it's something that practically each and every one of us can do. And yeah, that's all I have to say, really.
Thank you, Phil. Fries.
Yes.
Closing comments, brother.
Yeah, I think I just agree with Phil. I think it really, like, at this point, we can't look back. We can't look back at how other people were raised. I think at this point, it's literally being proactive about it, not even only calling out, but also going above and beyond. I mean, for instance, Otsile is an attorney, so maybe there can be, pro bono hours. Maybe Otsile helps one lady every month, like that kind of practical help that we can give to the victims and the safe spaces that we can create for the women that don't feel safe. I think that's just my point of, like, how to change things practically instead of having this vague thing where it's like, James, we must do better.
No, thank you, Fries. Fonzo. Fonzo? Doesn't seem like
Yo,
Fonzo.
yeah, I'm here. Shit, I was in the bathroom. Damn it. All right.
Woka kapoy.
100%.
All right. I just tabulated a few notes based on what you guys were saying. Just so it can make sense. So I said, okay, fine. I was just looking at those points, is just to say, I think in light of what we're doing here, which is, for me, honestly speaking, this is the first group I've done where a group of guys are speaking about a problem such as this. It's so unfortunate. It could have been done in other better circumstances, such as, sitting around a braai. But yet again, would those conversations be had around a braai stand? You understand what I'm saying? So, no, I mean, I'm just saying, it could have, it couldn't have, depending, who knows? In light of everything that's happening, what if there was no COVID-19? What if there was no George Floyd issue? You understand what I'm saying? So you have to look at those. Everything is just piling up and piling up and piling up. So it's very intense at this moment. So I take these conversations like a muscle. I say, like, they're to some guys, you'll have a group. I can guarantee you now, how many of us in this group currently? 3, 6, 9, 12. All right. and we have these conversations to another 12 homies of ours. Some may not agree with it, some can agree with it, some may not see the picture. But the reality is those conversations we have. Like Pat said, it's constant. It's one of those things. Come to a session, talk about it, have a chat. It's also a psychological thing because it's a huge dynamic. Mental wellness, guys, for men is not spoken about. That's also another thing that needs to be taken into consideration. Mental health for men, because we don't speak. You get me? We don't say anything. We don't address issues. We keep it to ourselves. We hold it in. Police, have we even noted the amount of men, police, who have killed their spouses and they've shot them and taken their own lives? How often does that happen? That lady had nothing to do with it. The wife or the spouse had nothing to do with it. But
most of our murders, most of our crimes of passion, about 70% is between a cop and a spouse.
Yeah, either way, either way, it's happening. So I think it starts from conversations such as this, and to share. And Lord willing, there are those individuals who will not have this conversation with you. There are those who will have that conversation with you. And it's for those to listen. And you have it on a constant basis, even if you're known as Mr. Social Justice Warrior or Mr. Wakanda Forever, free the lady, be that person. Screw those people who are not supposed to be in your life if you have a voice, especially something like this. There are guys who object. There will be guys who object. So I'm just giving that heads up for all of you guys, especially in this session. We need to be more organized in this and to put the word out more frequently to those. We have a lot of homies we know. Sure. Let's share it. We get.
Great. Yes, its connection is messing up with this order that's going on. Tawanda Kokota Piano Mashaya Mombe. Please, can you entertain?
All right, shot guys. Sorry for joining in a bit late, first of all. But I think if I could add my 2 cents, it's pretty short, right? I think by the fact of you guys being in this group, I think you guys understand that this is an issue and you know what to do, more or less within the guidelines, how to interact with emails, etc. Right? You guys are not my particular worry. I think it's the people that you love, especially the male people that you love. You know what I'm saying? Because these are the ones committing these atrocities, right? If you do truly love them, educate them on these issues. Please make them aware, because they're the ones who should matter the most to you. The brother next to you, you might be able to handle yourself, but your brother next to you might not be able to. You know what I'm saying? And if not only the love that you show towards females, right? Show the same love and compassion to your brother, right? By showing them what is right and what is wrong. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be my very brief 2 cents on this issue. Sorry, I wish I could say more, but I think that's my value add for this session. Sorry, guys.
No, it's chill. It's perfectly chill. Sorry. Lozi, what's good, bro?
Well, yes, I'm just pretty much just gonna reiterate what was said by myself, and I can't really remember the particular person, but someone mentioned it also. Yes, I just think I know not to sound cliche, but that enough is enough, but should have never gotten this far, bro. Even just look at America. People are saying yo, they're overreacting for this George Floyd thing, but then someone said that well, how many more of these need to happen? Literally so many ridiculously heinous things happen to Black Americans, and then they were just letting it slide, and now this guy got strangled on TV, and then now we're supposed to keep quiet. It's not just that incident. Just like this, there shouldn't have been a chick like hung from a tree with a baby inside it. That's ridiculous, bro. It should have never gotten to this point, bro. So if ever there was a time to act, it's literally like right now. And as you said, like you don't want to look, even though you're scared to look like a social justice warrior, it's like, dude, like just like it's this is someone's life you could be saving, bro. So it's just like just to know that those people have no place in society anymore, and we just we have to do our part, even though it's not as Lulama said, black and white. It's just like you need to start somewhere, and bro, that's the vibe.
Thank you, Lozi. Okay, I'm not sure if Lou is back, but the gas girl.
Hello. In finishing, I think we've done well in identifying that we have this sickness that is gender-based violence, and we've done well in identifying the causes and the symptoms of this problem and sickness, and that it was communication issues with our elders and our peers, this MTV Pornhub generation that we were sort of raised in. And we've done well to sort of identifying those symptoms, and that's you treat the symptom, not the problem. So now we look forward to the solution in the future, and it's key that we pave the way for the younger generation and maybe even the generation of now, so that they can't blame it on it's the way we were brought up. It's the problems that we had with culture and community, etc. And I think what number two, and probably one of the biggest problems we'll face in trying to solve this problem, is to unlearn the mistakes, things that are inherent to us, things that are intrinsic to us, that are toxic. I believe it was Shinji Kagawa's question, and Peasy mentioned it as well. So those are two big things, and it's key that we do those things from a point of love, in keeping other men accountable for their wrongdoings. It's not because we don't like them, it's because we do it out of love for the community as a whole, people and this country as a whole, because we want great things of each other and of ourselves. So
All right. Thank you, Nkoma. Shinji Kagawa. Go for it, Blood. Oh, Lou's back. Yeah, Lou after Shinji, you can go. Shinji.
So is it me first? So basically, again, what everyone has said is just basically like keep people around you and yourself accountable. Because I think we have, because I can say personally, I've let a lot of efficient slide just there. But I think like just let it get to a very big thing as you see the problem, like nip it in the bud and just dog. That's not how we do it. Every year we're gonna complain about the same shit over and over again. We're gonna say blah blah blah, this is a problem, this is not a problem, etc. So just keep each other accountable, and I think if we keep each other accountable, we can do better.
Right. Perfect. Thanks, Tups. You sounded like a robot for most of that. Thanks, bro. Lou.
You got the gist of it.
closing comments.
All right, sure. And thanks, T-Pain, for that comment. I had to, sorry. Couldn't help myself. I heard you guys talking about, someone has to do a concept of some sort. Fanzo, you know about that community concept I sent you. So I've basically developed an ethics type of project that I want to do in schools, and not just in certain demographics. I think it needs to happen in all types of schools, because if you go from the lower demographics, you find gangsterism is the ethical issues there and things like that. But then you go to your St. Stithians, you'll find your ethical issues are your racism, your masculine toxicity, and those types of things. So those are the things that we're looking to address. But obviously, I think, as Pat said, that stuff that's not going to be sorted overnight. But it's a shot in the dark. It's a start. I've already funds organized, companies already started having talks with each other about how we can best sort of attack that. So I think GBV must be a very, very big topic when we kick something like that off. And I think funds, we need to increase the scope, because I think there's a lot of good things we can get from other members that we won't think of, because we'll do it the way we work. But I think other guys can bring in very good angles to the whole thing. And guys like Abum Pizzi, they've got that vavavoom for this thing, So that's the one part. Second part, I think you guys are onto something, and it's about us saying, look, this generation, let's throw it in the dustbin, but let's at least make sure when you're talking to small lighties, this talk of Munna doesn't cry, that thing goes out the window. Or I'm talking, don't talk when adults are talking. You can just say, look, be respectful. If I'm talking, let me finish and then make your point, but don't cut them off as a child, because it's those small things that start. So we need to change that. But as for this generation, my bench is going to be tough to change that.
No, I think there's no changing them, Shem. There's no changing the older generation. It's just more like...
It is what it is. It's what it's. But thank you, Lou.
Because when you go to Eastern Cape, I'll talk to my cousin and I'll say, why did you hit that girl? Yeah, you. Okay, what did she do? And Kalamasim. When's Endon? And Kalamasim. That's his explanation. He's that. Kalamasim. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you,
Kalamasim, does that mean she was giving me shit?
Well done, Matt. Well done.
I had to translate for Tawanda just in case.
No, that was the translation I got it to.
Mr. Nkuna, closing remarks, bro.
Everything that you said is very, very important. Actually, Busy, thank you for letting us have this chat. I'm not the best of speakers. I spend a lot of time by myself. All my ideas are always crammed into one space. So when they come out, they don't necessarily come out in the order that I'd like them to come out in. So I just hope that whatever I said today makes sense. And then, like I said, everything that Otsile said, everything that Patrick said in their closing, what Lozi said. Matt, I would have liked to hear a bit more from you. You were very quiet today. But you gents are, we're onto something here. If this it doesn't necessarily have to become the type of movement that touches 1 million lives or whatever, but if it keeps the gents in our circle in check, you understand? Maybe some other oaks are doing their own thing somewhere else. We know that the women in our lives, our mothers, our sisters, our nieces, our daughters will be fine, So we just gotta keep this up. Yeah, that's what I've got to say in closing.
Hope one, Trev.
Thank you, Trev.
If we have a similar chat in the future sometime, and we have the same topic in the forum, it would be interesting to get a woman's perspective. I think there's a lot of men here, and I think that was the idea of this chat. But maybe, like, and I'm just saying, if it happens again, it would be interesting to see.
No, I think
we can possibly ask the question: is like, what would women want from guys? You know, to help.
I think the idea, Matt, was to first let's find ourselves, because they can come in and dominate us, and some of us will be like, "Hey, Joe, you know what? My cat is crying. I gotta go."
And the thing is, I felt it would be a better forum, because, and I am going to say this, it might be a little bit controversial. It's an emotional topic, but we as men aren't as attached emotionally to the topic. So I think we would be able to be as honest as possible and as calm as possible in this conversation and find out where we at. Right.
Because we don't speak. That's why. We don't speak. We need to speak.
No, I hear you, Fonzo. And that's why I said, let's start off here, and then we can building levels quitting.
Brick by brick.
You said passing ending comments, right?
Yeah, I've closed. I'm actually just saying thank you for the forum.
Yeah. I saw you and Bianca were having a fight, and it looked like it was getting really awkward because we're having this chat, and there you guys are arguing.
No, I was just giving context because she can't hear the earphones, so I was just giving context to our conversation.
Okay. Yes. I think my final comment, guys, and it's something. Well, firstly, thank you guys for coming through. Sorry if I haven't been as attentive all the time. I missed your question, Tab. Sorry, I've been working while we've been doing this chat, but I think this was a good chat, a good way to start, because our voices will never be heard, right? And it's good that they were heard. The women must speak their minds and whatever, and they basically must talk to us, and we must decide ourselves, guys, what are we going to do? We've got the mandate, we've got the blueprint. What are we going to do? Right. But yes, I am digressing now. I think all the issues brought up today, to me, comes down to a few things. It comes down to accountability, like Tawi mentioned, and everyone has mentioned accountability in some way or fashion. You're accountable to yourself, to your brother, and to the greater society. I think those are things that we need to focus on. Accountability. You must be accountable to all of them. Another thing, and what Lwazi said was, guys, you just got to be a fucking human being at the end of the day. Just be a fucking human being and realize that that person next to you, that other person, however much you don't like them, they're still a human being at the end of the day. You do not have a right to impose on any of their rights. Which is why I'm the most avid freedom of speech person ever. I say, if you want to be a racist, be racist. I don't care. I'm not going to impose on your freedom of speech. But I don't think that you as a human being should have any of your rights basically prohibited. And I think that's where being a human comes into play. And the last thing, and you guys all touched on it, I feel, and no one actually said it. I think that as South Africans, we have a culture of violence, aggression, and conflict. where it comes to making your voice heard, when it comes to dealing with situations, where it comes to basically interpersonal things, even in your family. Like Lou said, don't disturb your elders. No one comes to you with like, Chief, look, I'm just talking, I'll be with you now, whatever. There's a level of aggression and violence that exists in the South African context. And I say especially the South African context because, guys, broken families exist everywhere. Catcalling and toxic masculinity exists
That's
everywhere.
a good point.
All of this stuff exists everywhere. However, right, there's something about this cesspool of nutters in South Africa.
Sorry, Mpizi, someone's R&B is loud. I can't hear you very well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that
with you, my bear.
And he's drinking that Corona from day one of lockdown.
From 27 of March.
From 27 of March, he still got that Corona. But yeah, what I want to say in closing, guys, is we must start to be, us as men must start to be accountable. And when I say us as men must start to be accountable, as men, we are a unit. We are a unit. The actions of one man are a reflection on the rest of us, right? So we need to be accountable in all of our actions. You can't say shit like, hey, yo, that guy that hung his chick, that was that guy in that isolated thing in that situation. There are so many influences that we ourselves have had that the same guys had, right? And we're not holding, I don't think we need to hold that man accountable, right? And we need to hold ourselves accountable as well for the actions of that man. Second point, again, be a fucking human at the end of the day. Just be a fucking human. And my last point, folks, we really need to address the culture of violence in this fucking country. And that is me, and that is the talk. Gentlemen and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming out today. Few of you guys said stuff about Pornhub, so I'm going to go to sleep. Thanks, guys. I think next time we do this, I might invite a few women. We might have to cut the actual videos and stuff like that, and Oaks can pose questions on the chat. But yeah, we'll be posting this on Instagram as I've been recording. And hopefully Oaks didn't say anything too controversial. You might get cut on for it. But yeah, thank you guys.
It's a bit too late for that in BZ, bro.